Hey guys, we're back. We are starting again. I want to introduce you to my guest, and I don't know if you could hear my song on here, but the theme song for my guest today is "Break My Soul." You Won't Break My Soul by Beyonce, and she's going to share a little bit with us about her greatness. She's going to give us some really good information on how we can overcome the status quo and break through the societal norms that keep us limited and bound and not feel like we're in chains. So we are celebrating today. This is also Women's History Month. This is the last Monday in March, and I wanted to end it with this brilliant, beautiful woman who has so much rich knowledge and a wealth of knowledge. So you guys don't miss out. We're excited. We're excited. So you won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. Welcome, Dr. Brante Dashiell. Can you please say hello to the people?
Hello. How's everybody? Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for gracing us on with your presence on my platform for hosting brilliance. And the beauty of what we do is really to just highlight and honor the people who come on here, and just we want to support others by using your story, your journey, your mission, and your message. And so we will talk about that today and talk about how that is seen in reflections of your greatness and how you got there, how you said, wait a minute, I will not be held down, okay? And so, hi guys, I am Robin Queen. I am the Queen Educator. I am the CEO of Everybody Educate. And I believe that we are all educating somebody somewhere, but how we do it is very important. We want to do it in excellence, and we want to bring out our brilliance. So, Doctor, no, you won't get me. Did I say your last name correctly? Say it for the people.
Yes. yes. Brante Dashiell. It is French. My last name is French with a Norwegian descent. So I heard there was some German in there, historically. But yeah, some people, when you say it fast, it's Dashiell, but it's Dashiell when you slow down.
Dashiell.
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Dash. I like to get people's names correct. I know, a lot of times people say, oh, it's okay. Just call me whatever you can. And I think when part of my platform and my business as the lead consultant for Everybody Educate is that we create winning classrooms. And a part of creating winning classrooms, we grow teachers, students, and culture. And a part of that is building relationships. And when you build relationships with people, you want to know their name. I love that you just told me the meaning of your name. I love that. We can better connect. We can better relate. Like take that to the classroom and see if you really can connect with your students and understand their names. Say it, practice it until you get it.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm terrible sometimes with names, and I was just like, I'm sorry. Say it again. Say it. But I'm building
And my
relationships.
first name, even like I think high school, I was put in the boys' locker room because they thought my name was Bryant. My
What?
first. So I'm sitting on the locker, I mean the benches and bleachers, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I think I'm in the wrong room. And they're like, okay, yeah, they thought you were a guy. I'm like, no, I'm not. So yeah. But it's important. Important. I think the first thing to teaching is definitely knowing how to pronounce your students' names, making that rapport and letting them know that they matter. It's the little things. It's the little things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's jump right in then. And I have some information I already have on you, but I wanted to come from you. Like, let's think about your journey to greatness. And it's not to say we get to one space and we're great. No, like the whole goal about this interview today, Dr. Listen, I'm gonna practice it. This is me practicing. Dashiell.
Yes.
See?
Good job.
Yes, Dr. Dashiell, is that you've gone through so many things and you've learned how to overcome them so that you can continue to go through many things to overcome. Talk to us about who you are, where you're from. Let's start
Yes.
there, and then I'll ask and follow up.
Okay, yes. I am Dr. Bronte Dashiell. I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, which is about 2 hours southeast of Baltimore and
Mm.
about another 2 hours southeast of DC. Um, and I grew up in Wacomico County, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore. Very small population of African Americans here. So I was the only in many things growing up. Only Black cheerleader, only Black SGA representative, only. So I believe God was preparing me then to go out and be the first to do great things in the world. And growing up on the west side of town, they had already kind of told my parents that in the first grade, I had a teacher tell my mother that I was unable to learn and that I probably would not graduate from high school. How she predicted that as a 6-year-old little being and speaking that into my life, I don't know how. About fifth grade, I was having problems in school with my behavior and attitude. I was that child that said, my mama, I don't need to listen to you. So my mom quickly reeled me in and said, look, it doesn't matter how well I dress you, it doesn't matter how pretty you look, but your attitude is going to shape how people want to deal with you or if they want to deal with you. So
Mhm.
it's up to you to change your attitude. And so I think of the quote of your attitude determines your altitude. Um,
Mm.
and by sixth grade, I believe God put his hand on my life and said, I have something for you, my child. I became a hallway patrol, bus patrol. I was the band director for our sixth grade graduation. And from then, I just began to soar. I really took to heart what my mother said when she told me what my first grade teacher told me, who was my first African American teacher. Mind
Mhm.
you, I only had three K through 12 in this town here. So when
Wow,
I,
wait, let's pause that really quickly. Hold on, because that says a lot. This is becoming a trend. Almost everybody that I'm interviewing, most people that I'm interviewing have had that same experience, especially I've pretty much interviewed many women of color, and
Mhm.
that has been the trend. They did not have a lot of
Yeah,
Black teachers or yeah, and it's, how did that affect you or not affect, or tell me about
yes.
that really
It
quickly.
did affect me because when I was always that child who would make up the games for the kids and gather the kids together for Easter and holidays and do talent shows with the family. I was always that one babysitting that people trusted me their children with, and I love kids.
Mm.
So when I started as a day camp counselor in undergrad, as a freshman in college, I would do summer camps. I did that for about 7 years. And I just kept hearing people say, Brante, you should teach. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a teacher. Because that image of that teacher who actually is still living and still in my town, that image of how she made me feel and telling my mother such, I did not want to be that. So I did not have an image. I did not come from a line of teachers as many people have who are in the field of education. I'm the first educator on my mom's side and my father's side. I was the first of the children to go to get my bachelor's, the first to get my master's, and definitely the first to have my doctor's in the whole family. So I did not imagine that I would be teaching. I majored in rehabilitation services. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist, but God had another plan for me. So, about my junior, senior year in college, I started to work at a group home. And I started to volunteer to help over at the school. And again, I heard people say, you sure you don't want to teach? I'm like, no, I don't want to teach. But as I became more spiritually aware with who I was and that God had a plan for my life, I started to give in a little bit and started to work part time as a teacher assistant, finishing up my undergrad. Went on to work with kids in the education realm and loved it. And then I had another shift where I was very good with kids who were defiant, who were oppositional, who had behavior problems, who had emotional problems. And whatever God gave me, He just expanded that to a whole nother level where I was the one to calm the students down. I was the one to be able to give them directives and they listened. I was the one that people called and say, okay, Brante, we need you in room 508, like something's going on in here. And I'm like, okay. And I started to realize, okay, God, there's something else that you're doing in my life, and I need to be obedient to that. And so as I was going through George Washington University on a scholarship to get my master's, we had a full-time internship at a school for kids who were basically kicked out of public school. And coming through our program was their last stop to get a completion of IEP or diploma. And that was in DC. So my kids were coming from Southeast and I came from the Eastern Shore. So to them, I was a Bama. Like, why you talk like that? Why you talk like white people? Why you wear your hair like that? And I'm like, what do you mean? So I started to learn that within my culture was another culture that I wasn't exposed to this degree in a high concentration until I started working with these kids from these very rough neighborhoods. I was cussed out. I was threatened. We're going to meet you at the subway. I'm like, oh God. One day I called my mom. I was like, Mom, this is not what I need to be doing. Like, the girl just threatened me. She said she's going to whip my behind at the subway. And they know that I catch the green line into Maryland. And I was just, and she said, God has you there for a reason. I was in, well, God got to come down and tell me, why am I here? I need him to show up right now. And ended up having an everlasting impact on my life. And my graduate advisor, Dr. West, told me, she said, Brante, I promise you, you have a gift for these kids. If you make it out of this program, I promise you, you will be able to teach anywhere. And she was right. So that propelled me to higher heights. And I was introduced to Marva Collins. I'm not quite sure if you know her. She
Yes.
opened up West Side Preparatory School in her apartment building in Chicago. And I fell in love and said, this is what I want to do. I want to work with the kids that society has given up on. I want to work with the kids that society says they're just trash. Why are you even pouring into them? And I remember a time at GW where I had a student, Lakeisha. She was the roughneck of the crew, the females. The females were always the hardest for me. So I had a whole group of females. And I said, if I can get her, I'll have no problem with the rest. And I was able to get her wrapped around my finger. But she took me some trials and errors. Day she came into class and said, we're not doing no work today. Guess what? If Lakeisha said no one was doing any work, no one did any work. So
Wait a minute. That is so, listen, that is, I have, you just dropped the gem right there. That is a strategy. And I want, if you're listening to this right now and you are an educator and you're in there and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't do this. First of all, Dr. Brante has literally given you her story. Like, listen to this. I didn't want to do this. I was doing a whole different thing. I was called to do this. And you know you're called to do this, but you want to quit because I need you to put that in the chat. If you're watching this on the replay, say hello to Dr. Dashiell, and I want you to show some love, and I want you to actually put in there, that's me. I feel like I'm ready to quit. I have some tough kids. I have one, you can think of one specific kid right now.
yes.
Right now, I need you guys to, don't put their name in there. Don't do that to them. But if you can, I want you to just say, yep, I can. Did you hear that, Jewel? Dr. Dashiell, you know what you said? You said, if you can get that one child that is the leader in that classroom, right? For the most part, and you can kind of get that, build that positive relationship with them and get them on your side, you can pretty much get the rest.
Exactly.
That's a Joel.
And Lakeisha she could dust any guy off the court. She was rough. Okay. She also was considering herself as a lesbian. And that was in the late 90s where even teachers didn't know what to do with that. And because none of that intimidated me, I guess she was like, okay, I might need to give this lady a chance to let her go on and teach us. And it worked. It worked. Once I was able to kind of build that relationship and rapport, and I started saying, well, Lakeisha, why don't you do this problem on the board for me today? I'm going to let you lead the class. I'm going to sit back. She was very smart in math. And I said, go ahead and show us how you got your answer. Well, of course, that gave her even more power. And it made her feel empowered, but in a good way. Not the negative way in her neighborhood, but actually a teacher asking her to go to the board and show me how. You know, those students who always wanted to write on the chalkboard, that was a big thing when we were kids, right? And I actually used her as my little assistant. And I was able to keep leveraging that relationship. So when she actually had an episode where she actually would go through the hallway, rip down the lockers, ripped on all the Black art. They called me on the walkie to come on a day that I was real cute. I had my heels on. I was like, really? Today I got to get on the ground with this young lady? I didn't have to, because once I stepped in the hallway and I said, Lakeisha, we're not doing this today. Not this way. What is going on? Talk to me. And she just broke down and started crying, hyperventilating to the point where she ended up needing to go to the hospital. Guess who had to ride an ambulance with her? I did. She would not go without me. And I got permission from the principal to go. Mind you, I missed my class at nights because I was also doing a full-time master's degree at George Washington University. And we had a full-time internship where we were co-teaching at the Rutgers, one of the Rutgers School in Washington, D.C. And that built a bond that probably up, even after I left, I kept in touch with her. I don't know where she is today. I know she's still around because I had the clinical supervisor that worked there. We keep in touch, and she has impacted my life tremendously. Our students tell us what they need. We just have to be willing to humble ourselves and listen. Yes, you are the teacher. Yes, you are the authority, but it doesn't mean you need to project that onto them. We need to kind of sit down, humble our spirits, and listen to what they're telling me. She was telling me I need attention. I need to be valued. I need to be validated. I need to feel valued. I need to be seen. And I made her let her know that I see you.
Yes.
But I want to see you show these people who think you're not going to be successful how great you are, because you're a math whiz. And I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but you rock when it comes to math. Not only that, you rock when it comes to that court. I need you to use that. When you're out and you have confrontations in your neighborhood, remember what I'm telling you. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone in that form or fashion. Because what it's going to do is make you be that stereotype and get locked up for putting your hands on someone when really it's best for you to just walk away.
Ooh. So this, ladies and gentlemen, whoever is listening, if you're that teacher, this is how you create a winning classroom.
Yeah.
One student at a time, building relationships. I want to go back to what you said in the very, because you said so many beautiful things that are resonating with me and reminding me to maintain my hope and my belief in education, that we actually can grow all of our students and not just the ones who line up to what we want them to do.
Yes.
So thank you for like that. You said a whole lot there, and I can't wait to like just take a snippet of that and put that out there because it's beautiful. Let's go back. Your journey to then your journey from a child to what you just spoke about prepared the way for you to have that. You had that in you, that what you did not want from a teacher. And in my interview questions, I always ask, like, were there teachers that, impacted your life and all of that? You had a teacher who impacted your life negatively. You took that, turned it around, because you also had another teacher who is your mother.
Yeah.
Because everybody is educating. What do we say? This is your mother who educated you on the opposite of what a negative thing that was said from that teacher. And she wasn't trained. She probably didn't know all this. She needed your voice. She actually did need your voice.
That's right. That's right.
She needed this. So you gave a child, I'm sure many and all of your children this, but with that example, you gave what you didn't have. And I think that's beautiful. And she appreciates that. Now she is able to do that same thing and do it quicker and not have to go through all these craziness in life where it's like, oh, my teacher said I can't do this. Maybe I can't. But thank God that thank God that he put you in a position to be prepared for your next throughout your life. And that is a reflection. When we talk about reflections of greatness, I love how you shared your story, but I also love how you share how you learned from that child.
For
I know I said a whole lot there, but that to me is what I'm taking, and that's beautiful. Dr. Brante, talk to us a little bit more about like your journey now.
So moving out of the K through 12 environment, I went into higher education. And I'll highlight on that a bit because I also had a professor tell me that because you don't have a doctorate, you can't get a job teaching in higher ed. Now, I learned from my first grade teacher the tenacity to say, please don't tell me what I cannot do, because I will prove you wrong every single time. It only gives me ammunition to prove you wrong. And so I did. So I left GW. I had conquered in my eyes that population, but I also felt that teachers were not ready to deal with this populations of students. So I said, God, please give me an opportunity to show people how. Use my story as what the teacher tried to do to me, which was basically dismantle all the positiveness that my mom and my grandmama, my dad, and my auntie had poured into me, right? And I want to be able to give teachers that ammunition, that wherewithal of what do I do when I have a child who's calling me out of my name, which at home we would get punished or spanked, but that's not your child, so you can't spank them. But again, you do have to humble yourself and say, how do I deal with this being? To me, I believe all kids, all children are gifts, right? So it's very important on how we handle them. We ask ourselves, how do these students become so violent? You're mad at the student, but we should be mad at us as adults, because what have we poured into them to make them now reflect how I must behave to get attention? So when I got hired at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, my first time in higher education at the age of 28 years old, and some of my graduate students were about my age. And I looked into the classroom one day of developmental psychology. I had about 50 students. That was the capacity. And I saw people in tears. And I said, why are you crying? And they said, I'm not quite sure I can become a teacher. I don't know if I have the courage to stand in front of a room and have a child curse me out and still be able to calm them down and go back to teaching 30 or 40 students. And I said, I'm going to tell you this. Every time before I teach, lecture, present, do a workshop, I pray. I pray because I know God has given me an opportunity to share my gift and hopefully impact someone else's thought processes, decision making, how they handle a situation when it comes to a challenging child, and know that He's put me in that place and that's where I'm supposed to be for that moment. And I need to make the best of it. So that class actually became a class where people were signed up waiting to take my class, because that was all teacher educators. It wasn't just special educators. The school was a teaching college. So whatever your major was, if you wanted to be a teacher in that field, science, math, it didn't matter. You would take this developmental psychology class, which was one of my favorite classes to teach. Then I knew God was taking me to another level. To look, I was like an outer body experience, to look and see these students, and some of them actually crying from me just sharing my real life journey into how I became an educator when I was trying to run away from it. I said, okay, God, what is it that you would want me to do? What else do you need me to do? So I became very engrossed in now these adult learners, to the point where I remember going to a student's dorm and saying, you missed my class this morning. First of all, the RA was shocked that I was there. I said, yeah, I'm here to see, we'll say Johnny. He missed my class this morning. I came to see if he's okay. Can you take me to his dorm? And I knocked on the door. He opened the door. He almost passed out. He was like, Mr. Shield, I said, you missed my class this morning. Are you sick? No, I was a little tired. I said, you don't have a right to be tired. We're at a historically Black college and university. Do you understand that someone got lynched? Do you understand that someone was hung on these trees out here just so you could come here to be educated, to be a better you? Do you understand that you're driving a BMW? I have my Honda Civic. Your parents are paying for you to be here out of their pocket. You don't have a right to sleep over. I don't like getting up in the morning either, but God has given me the task to teach you. So therefore, it is my obligation to you and a commitment that I made to you when I signed to teach this class to be here at 8:30. So don't miss my class again. You don't have the right to miss my class.
Listen.
He came back the next week and I heard him in the hallway. Yo, yo, Mr. Shield came in my dorm, yo, I ain't missing her class no more. So the word got out quickly. But
Come
that's old
on.
school. That's what we need to remind our students of your purpose.
Come
Whether they're
on.
little people or whether they're adults, you don't get the
Mm,
right to bail out. Someone paved the way for you to be there, to get an opportunity to do better and to influence the world, not just your
mm.
community, but the world. Period.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Pause. Because you did I'm gonna say, instead of say Joe, I'm gonna say Joe Jan Clark. My mom's name is Georgiana. Georgiana. You did a Joe Jan Clark instead of Joe Clark. Honey, you're not playing. But let's go way back to what the first thing you said whenever you answered this question. You believed that the students had more, had you believed that what that all of your students were capable of more and going forward. That right there is the key thing ever. Like when I talk about having a winning classroom and growing teachers, students, and growing teacher, students, and culture, you literally, that's it. If you don't believe that students can and even go beyond, you may not have that tenacity
Right.
or that like feeling to empower them to knock on their door, like, no, no. And maybe some of you out there, or if you're listening to this, you might say, I'm not going to the door. There's other things you can do though. I think the point of the matter that I'm hearing Dr. Dashiell say is that, you know what, get out there and can hold a standard up. What
Yes.
is the standard
Yes.
that you are bringing as an educator to the table? And
Yes.
the beauty, I love talking about beauty. I talk about beauty with brilliance and excellence and all that. The beauty of it is that you have planted such a seed that will change the lives of those students forever.
Forever.
Or they will never forget you. I don't care if they be like, man, I can't believe you did that. Oh my gosh, why would you go? I don't care. You are holding a standard. They know you care. They might curse you out tomorrow. I agree with you. I've had students do the same thing, but on a one-on-one, they'd be like, Miss Queen, what did I miss? Can you help me with this? Can you? But in the class, they want to act like like want to still be cool. I don't care. They know that I'm upholding they know that you are upholding a standard. Mm-hmm. That is why I have you on here the last day of my interviews for women. That's excellent. That's excellent education. That's not only about education, that's about your character as a strong woman. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to read here something that you wrote because I want to remember to say it so that everybody else is impacted by it too. You said, I am here because society said I should not be, but God has had me has had me confirm many times. If you are listening to this right now, why are you here? And I'm sure pretty much educators listen to my platform. Why are you here? Why are you educating? Why'd you start doing this? What have you been called to do, even though it's hard? And how can you shift your mindset, like Dr. Dashiell said, to hold up a standard to empower yourself and your students to go to the next level? Mm-hmm. What are some of your limitations? So in the chat, go ahead and put like what's hard, what do you have to break through? Because and as I continue to read this, it says you said in here that you grew up, the space that you grew up in. So it was your lived experience, your race, your essay, your scores, all of this stuff, all of these obstacles could have kept you back. Right. And if you are listening to this right now, what has kept you back? What is your story? And I want you to be empowered by Dr. Dashiell of how you can move from the obstacles into your brilliance, into your greatness. Because right here, she's giving some, and we can't even go on too much longer, but we won't have her back. See, it just gets so good. And I want you all to process this, and I want you to take it in. I have a couple more things I want to ask her. But I noticed you said, I come from greatness and I will go on to great things despite what the stats say or those in the world say. You have created your own page and your own story that you're going to walk, and not what somebody made for you. And last week, I had Queen on, who's my sister. She also lives in DC, Maryland area, and
Okay.
she's talked about keep your eyes on your own paper. And she
Yes.
was saying, and create your own, like your own path. And
Yes.
you're literally embodying that. You embody that, and you're teaching us how to do that this week. So it's just so beautiful. And I want to say thank you for sharing your story in that way. And you didn't have to. So okay, I could talk, but let me ask you this other question. I thought it was really important. So we talked about your journey a lot, and as a Black educated woman in education field, can you kind of pinpoint what beyond like not having a lot of Black people teachers that look like you, what unique challenges have you faced, and how have you overcame them, even now, like as a Black educator?
Um, Unfortunately, in the US of A, in our nation, we still have such big barriers of people being intimidated now by who we are as a brilliant African Americans, people of color that we are. I was reminded twice that I have value. I have something to offer. I've come from greatness. I stand on the shoulders of excellence.
Mm.
And going to Saipan in 2004 and then going to Dubai in 2016, two very different places. One was a very poor island in Micronesia, and one was a very, very rich and affluent country.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing they had in common was they valued education at the
Mm.
level that our nation has not yet to meet. They also value the educator, right? To a standard that I've never seen in my life walking on the streets, universities, K through 12 environments of the United States of America. To go to China and have people who were my parents' age bow at me every morning because they knew I was a professor was too much.
Wow.
To leave a country and have someone actually not accept your resignation letter to return home from Dubai, asking me to please think about it for another month or so. And then to come home and not be able to be hired other than to seen as a substitute and then a long-term substitute. And then finally an African American principal saying, wait a minute, when you left, the kids were asking for you. They never asked for a substitute before. When is that lady coming back?
Mm.
So I know that even though these barriers stand before me, I have a higher calling.
Yeah.
And because I've been given the stamina, right? Because I've been given the defiance to say, you will not define who I am based on your narrow mindedness or your lack of education to know really of whence I come from.
Mm.
So I must keep proving you wrong. And
Yeah.
I must keep asking you to stop and think about how you were seeing me from the beginning to how you now see me after working with me for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
When you were a little uncertain because you had a stereotype of who I was as an African American woman that
Mm.
gets perpetuated all the time. And then when you meet me, my articulation of words, my presentation of self, my professionalism, and my knowledge of who I am and my content and my expertise baffle you until you have nothing but to do but to humble yourself and say, there's something we can learn from this one,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
I must continue despite the challenges. Be why I have my students watching me, whether they be the little ones or the adult learners. I have to represent what God has put me here for. My steps are more intentional now than ever. We are in a crisis and emergency in America. We're in a cold red. We're in a serious emergency of our educational system. More importantly, our neighborhoods of brown, beige, and black people are suffering because they still are not able to see our students and our children beyond the color of their skin. So it motivates me. It makes me sad at times, but it also gives me the stamina and the reminder intentionally, right? Purpose, inspiration. And I inspire not even knowing that I'm inspiring. I just have to be who I am. And if I happen to intimidate you along the way, I have learned it's not me. That has nothing to do with me, but all has to do with your reflection of who you are and why God has made you part of the journey. Why did you bump into me? Why did your team hire me? Why are your students still asking for me once I've gone? So I know that our time is limited here. It's important for me to leave a legacy. It's important for students who maybe didn't see a Black teacher like me to have an encounter with me, even if just for a moment. They might not be my student, but for them to understand that I reflect greatness and how I move and how I breathe, and that I care about who you are because you're a human being. And there's something that I can impart on you and input and pour into you that may change your world. I know God has tasked me to do such. So I'll continue despite the challenges. I must continue. I don't have a choice but to continue.
Wow. Beautiful. From the heart. Don't have me on here crying now. Okay. You answered my question of what message, unless you want to add a little bit more, what message you want to leave for the people. But before we close out, um, I want to connect all of this to your brilliant consulting firm. Talk to us about what's next or what's now with your consulting firm, ECS, where that came about and how people can connect with you and get a hold of you.
Yes, thank you for that. ECS Consulting Services stands for Evolving to Create Success. It actually became a part of my spirit after I left Saipan. When I came home in 2006, I came home because my mother had a stroke. But I also, the opportunity that I was given there as an instructor at the college there was to go into the communities and start training people on how to work with kids with special needs. And I realized that I had another calling beyond the classroom or beyond four walls, that I wanted to work with families, that I wanted to work with school systems that work with kids with special needs. So it's my hope that through my consulting firm that I'm able to begin to start professional development series, coaching, job embedded coaching, support systems of, educators and administrators who need the support now. Our kids have shifted, the environment has shifted post pandemic, right? Our class behaviors have escalated, the referrals to the office have escalated, the suspensions have escalated, and more specifically, still, that low SES population and our brown, beige, and Black students are tremendously impacted. So I'm hoping that with my gift and my experiences, that through my consulting firm, I have the opportunity to go into the school systems and to be able to change the narrative, change the culture, change the minds and how people operate. Remind them that you are here. What is your intention, right? What is your impact? What legacy do you want to leave, whether you have those students in your presence for 5 minutes or 6 months? And so I have now started to look for those opportunities. I can be reached with ECS called Consulting Services via, I'm on LinkedIn, also under Brante DeShiel, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook under both my ECS Consulting Services or Dr. Brante DeShiel. And as I've shared with people before, that you can Google me and be able to see some of the work that I've done, not just in our schools, but in our communities, fighting for justice, fighting for social justice, fighting for educational equity within our communities, not just nationally, but internationally. And hopefully I'll be able to plant more seeds and be able to leave the legacy that I believe God has laid before me to leave.
Thank you so much for that. In the chat, you all, I put the Facebook link. I'm also going to put the LinkedIn link in there too. You would really be crazy if you don't connect with her and you're an educator that really would benefit from her services. And I'm just so grateful to have you here again. Once again, I appreciate you. I appreciate your journey, your story. You see that my background now goes to like that reflection. It's just every
I
time I
love
look
it.
at this picture, it reminded me of you.
Thank you.
Thinking about the reflections of greatness and how you broke the mold, and you continue to break the mold as you do the work that you do all throughout your life. You're a woman of rich um, wealth and love and
Mhm.
experience and in the world. Like I want to sit down and continue to talk to you about your experiences overseas, about how education is value. Like there's so much more that we can talk to Dr. Deshiel about, and I don't want to um, I don't want you all to miss an opportunity to do the same. Your life will be better. I mean, in one encounter when I met her, I could not stop thinking about just even wisdom that she imparted in me. You know, I'm an educator. I've been doing a lot of things for a lot too, but I recognize greatness and I don't take advantage of it. I support it. I, you know, I want to put it out there to the world, and so I want you to know that you are an ideal person of influence to help educators create winning classrooms, just like my mission is to do. So I want you all to get a hold of her as well. So one way we can continue this. There's two ways.
Okay.
I have a Calendly link if you are ever wanting to just have um, it's actually called Brilliance Empowerment Chat. I
Oh,
believe that as we go into the second quarter of the year, we must not, which is next week or this weekend, we
yeah,
must not do business as usual. Don't you agree?
I agree. I agree.
We can't.
Yes.
Our school, you mentioned it about COVID, our
Hmm.
school systems and our education system in the US, we actually
Yes.
can do better. We actually can be better, and we can be
Yes.
the best of ourselves. So
Yeah.
women, I primarily have women, right? But on my platform, but I also have men too who are brilliant. So as we go into the second quarter, get around like-minded people. Let's have a group chat and put it in here. I'm always inviting all of my friends, like Dr. Deshiel, and so to bring wisdom. So I put in the chat how you can get a hold of us, a Calendly link, and sign up for when you want to come and be a part of our brilliance chats to help you hone your brilliance and go to the next level of your greatness. And Dr. Desha, can you give us some final words and thoughts that will push us into the next, especially for women, since this is Women History Month, those women who are struggling to walk in their brilliance because of all their obstacles? What
Yeah.
can you say to them and anybody
I
else?
agree with you. I think part of it is that you must get around like minded people, be around people on the direction in which you're trying to go. So, our brilliant Dr. D agrees where we say, if you're trying to be a millionaire or a billionaire, you need to be in a room with them. If you're trying to be an excellent educator or an excellent principal or administrator or college professor, get in the room with people who are doing what you want to do. Be around brilliance, just to rub elbows with them. Humble yourself and quiet your spirit and your tongue. That's why God gave us one mouth and two ears, because we still can learn. You're never too old to keep learning and developing your mind, your body, and your spirit. Those things are so important when you're having contact with other human beings, whether they're little beings or adult beings, because our synergy impacts the world. And the world is watching United States of America in so many ways. You don't realize that unless you step outside and they ask the questions that they ask. So walk into your brilliance. Do it boldly. Do it scared, right? Do it not knowing everything that you think you should know. And be in a state, allow yourself. I do meditation, I do fasting, because I think that's all sacrifice. And it also is just very humbling to take those things, those luxuries that we think we need, whether it's chocolate, whether it's our cell phone, whether it's our binge watching of those reality shows. But you got to be able to say, let me do me, let me take care of me, because the better you are as a being, you will show up in the world even greater. And that's what we need right now. We're in a serious, serious time in America and globally. We need to show up as our best selves. So you have to take care of you mentally, physically, and spiritually so that you have enough fuel to share with others.
Thank you. We so appreciate you. And
You,
this is such a
you.
beautiful interview. I could just feel the synergy through the Zoom, through the Facebook, I mean, through the YouTube, and those of you who are listening to this on a replay. Man, I just go ahead and write in the chat. We are here for you. And just as Dr. Dashiell said, we have a coach that we kind of met through, and
Mhm.
we are forever connected because of that very thing. I love what you said. Be in the room with brilliance. Be in the room with where you want to go. And so I have put that in the chat. I want you guys to take that nugget and all of these nuggets. Listen to this over and over again. Send it to your friends and people who you think need to hear this. And you know what? Show up on the Brilliance chats that we're starting in April. And on
Awesome.
Friday, more information is to come tomorrow. You'll see a flyer. We're going to have a part two, but the way it's going to go, I'm celebrating brilliant women, and I want Dr. Dashiell back because I want to ask her some more questions as we celebrate brilliant women. So at the end of this week, you will see a special that I'm doing. It's a Friday Night Live special, and it may be pre-recorded, it may not. We'll see what my schedule looks like, but
Mhm.
what our schedules look like. But I want to close out Women's History Month honoring brilliant women just like Dr. Here I go, Dashiell.
Yes.
I kept on trying to say it's like keep
It's
practicing.
okay. You can say Dr. Bronte, that's fine.
Dr. Brante, that's it. But I want to
You
motto
there.
what I say. But thank you for being here. Thank you for your brilliance. And everything is, I did put some things in the chat, and I'll add some more of your information so people can get a hold of you. And you guys get a hold of her very soon. She's great things coming up. All right. We're going to stop the live stream, and we want you all to have a wonderful night, a wonderful week, and walk in your brilliance all week and create those winning classrooms.
Yes.